Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Ruben and Jessie podcast. This is Jesse,
And I'm Ruben.
and we are back again with another incredible episode. Today, it is just us, just the brothers, talking, shooting the shit as we do on this beautiful MLK Day. Shout out to Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh
and
yeah.
everything, all the big footsteps he's left in front of us to emulate and to take charge of. So shout out to him. Shout out to today. And funny enough, in many ways, it coincides what we were just talking about off recording or off camera, but technically still on camera because we're zooming each other. But it is what it is. Talking off camera about leadership and what it means to seek out leadership in your own life, even if you are a leader. And we started this conversation because, Ruben, you have recently made some new developments in your life, in your lifestyle, in the way you operate in this world. Won't you let the people know what's going on?
Yeah, bro. So I officially hired a coach. He was recommended to me by one of the guys in the men's group that I facilitate out here in the Bay Area. And he was like, hey, there's this place called Functional Lifestyles. Shout out to the gym called Functional Lifestyles in Palo Alto. You should check it out. So 2 weeks ago, I went. I got a whole fitness assessment done on myself, where they kind of seen I gave like all my issues, whether I was like, oh, when I run, my knees get a little painful, or like I have this chronic shoulder pain. So they're like, cool, we'll work with you on that. Introduced me to my coach, um, who I'm hoping to get on the podcast sometime in the next few months. So I'll be hearing about him. His name is Michael. And we had a talk, and dude just knew everything. Like I was explaining things to him, and he's like, yeah, we can work on that. We can make you do this. I was like, oh, this dude gets it. He's also studied like I think, what is it called? What is it called when someone, you probably know, when someone kind of goes to school and it's like right under a doctor in terms of like body and like fitness, sports. They work
Like
in like
what? Like sports,
physiology or something like that.
sports science.
Sports science, like all that stuff. So he went to school for that. So he's like
Yeah.
very well known. He's been training in Olympic uh like lifting and all that stuff. So pretty
Mhm.
cool dude. We connected, and they introduced me to that coach. I bought 10 sessions, so it's going to be 10 sessions with him,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that I'm fully optimized when
Mm.
most people would think like, but you do all this running, you work out, you kind of figured it out on your own. It's like, yes, but even if I got 95% of it done, I still want that extra 5%
Yeah.
to be at my most optimal and make sure that I'm doing everything right. What if I'm doing my squats wrong? Which they told me like I'm okay with my squats, with a slight inflection at the bottom when I go. And see, I would never have seen that because I work out on my own and I don't train
No.
with like Jesse near me because we're in opposite seaboards. Um, so it's not like nobody can tell me like, hey, when you squat, when you get to the bottom, you have like this inflection point. So
Mm-hmm.
these small little things I wanted to make sure that I fix so that in the future, and I know you've talked about this on the podcast, that these issues don't arise due to
Sure.
bad performance and just like doing something, a little thing wrong that can kind of ruin the way
Yeah.
you work out. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hire a coach, and fix these things. So technically, I got 10. I bought 10, but because it was New Year's, they gave me a good deal. So I got 14
Hey.
sessions.
Hey.
So I'll be going to see him once a week, every week, and he'll be like creating basically my off. When I don't see him, he's creating my fitness plan for when I'm not there, including the running that we're doing, because he's also going to be in our Spartan race, the same Spartan race that
Hey.
Jesse and I are doing. That now that I got pushed back to September, he's going to be in it as well. So that's pretty cool to hear, that he was going to be in it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in it, man. This will be my first coach of the year. This is a year of coaches. It's a year to be a student again. So
Yeah.
this is the first coach I'm hiring, and then now I'm on the hunt to look for a business coach as well to help with the brand. But yeah, that's TBD. But yeah, man, like it's gonna be a year to really learn from the true masters, because I don't have everything mastered, and kind of humble myself.
Yeah, man, absolutely, dude. Yeah, you know, it's funny, like, uh, and I'm sure a lot of people who see them, who present themselves as coaches or practitioners and things like that. It's like, it's like those are the people, and like me, us being one of those, like we are like the ones who are the teachers are the typically the biggest students. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the amount of money I've invested, the amount of
You,
money I've
man,
invested.
I get a
Yeah,
lot of
bro.
my
Let
I think about you every time I want to make a decision. I'm like, forget the money, like just do it, man. You seen
yeah,
Jesse like do it all the time, and
all the time,
like just
all the
mad
time.
respect, man.
And the thing is like I gotta say, I would say when did I hired probably the first person I probably hired was when I was I think it was right after ayahuasca when I did um, when I started working with the bodybuilding coach.
Right.
And that and I say that to say, like, in many ways it was a positive experience, in other ways it was a negative experience. It had given, like any relationship, it had its give and take. I don't regret it, but what that experience showed me, but and actually technically no, because we did next level, and that was a huge investment
Oh,
of
right.
money, of energy, of time,
And we had a
and
coach.
then we had a coach. Yeah, absolutely. So that was definitely the first time um, on that level. But I would say I guess why I thought of the bodybuilding coach was because that was the first time where it was very about me and like
Hmm.
my goals and my desires and like what I wanted to achieve on that front. And even before that, like you think about all the books, all the books that were bought, I probably spent like well over $10,000 on like not just coaching, but like on education, like
Hmm.
programs, books, courses, um, all of that combined, easily over $10,000 in the last like 5-6 years, you know? And that's just education alone. Um, and then the coaches, so basically once I started working with the bodybuilding coach, what that showed me was like you really, the what you can achieve um uh with someone else taking care of the, how do I put it, like the logistics of your goal, you know what I mean? For like, because like that dude was, he was writing my program, he was training me, he was,
Hmm.
you know, he was creating my diet, my nutrition. I was just the machine. Like my only job was to be a machine and like do the things that he told me to do. And now that's one way of coaching. There's other levels where there's a much not that it wasn't extremely participatory, but in the mental sort of structure and design of growing yourself or growing or growing things within your life. There's more give in other examples, but to have someone who's climbed, you know, well past where you even desire to go, or is already living comfortably where you desire to go, to have their insight available to you uh, is priceless. You know what I mean? And so, and that, you know, that was a huge part as to like this past year has probably, because like with all of the health issues that I had over the years, this past year has been my best year yet, as far as like all things like performance, my nutrition, the way I feel in my body, my energy levels, my sleep quality, my physique, everything has, this is the best it's ever been. Um, and it was a long fucking journey, you know what I mean? It still is, in many ways, it's still a journey. There's still optimization there to continue. But to sit at 24 and know and be at a point where like I know what's good for my body, I know what's not good for my body, I know what makes me feel good, what doesn't make me feel good, what food is right for me, what type of training is good for me. at any moment, I know what exercises or stretches I need to do to help align and fix different parts of my body. Like if I didn't have an interest to continue learning, I wouldn't really need to, because I'm at a place where I know my body so well, and I know what it needs at any given time to feel better and to perform good. Like I also got rid of the whoop because I was like, yo, I know, like, yeah, I got rid of the whoop because I was like, this is dope. Don't get me wrong, the whoop is really, really dope and it's supportive. And I still have it just in case I want to take it up again once we start training again, like more aggressively. But for the most part, I've heard this on a podcast with Paul Chek and Mike Salemi, who we will be having on the show very soon. So drum roll for that, which is like all these things are amazing. But if you can learn how to, day to day, then you kind of become the master of your own self. And what's interesting is for me where that, because I spent so much of, as from a coach perspective, I've spent so much effort investing into coaches that were helping me with the physical, like get my health better, get my fitness better, and more of the mental emotional work. Although I have had, like, I've worked with therapists in the past and stuff, but a lot of the mental, emotional, spiritual, like, and alignment and coherence work, like that type of stuff, I haven't really invested in. And that's sort of where my eye is now, is like, okay, who's out there who's really operating emotionally and energetically from a level that I want to perform at,
right.
Especially with Missing Links, and we could talk about that show and on all the, all the things that, we've been getting hip to in there lately. But yeah, man, it's just for anyone who, not to say it's necessarily with us, but just to use us as an example, like if you've been following along, listening, that we offer our coaching services, and you've been kind of on the fence of like, is it worth it? Is it, why should I do it? Like, it's stupid, or it's weird, or it's strange. Know that, like, if you resonate with anything we talk about, it's only because we do the exact same thing. And anyone who you admire, who's like crushing it in the world, they've got 2 to 5 coaches, easy 2 to 5 coaches at all times, working on them with it. Because why not? Why would you not do that? Why would you not work with people who are better than you to evolve what you're capable of doing? So if you're interested, reach out, because like, and this isn't like a weird sales pitch. It's like, because I know what it feels like. I'm sure, Ruben, you know what it feels like. Is like, it's like you want to work with someone, but you don't know what that means about you. Like the way you identify with that could be like it could be pride. Like, why should I work with somebody else? Or it could be like, well, like, what do I need to get fixed, or what do I need to get better, or like whatever it is, whatever your ideas of what it means to have a coach or have someone there to support you. I'm sure, Ruben, you can speak into that. Like, has that been things that have come up for you? Because like you even said, like, it's you watch me do it because I've done it so often and for so long, but it's been sort of more of a I don't want to say challenge, but more of like a slower build up for you to get to jump into that. So can you speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's because once it comes back to like that money psychology, and we've spoken about this, not really on the podcast, but to ourselves. And it's like, the reason why I'm like extremely frugal is because of the way I grew up in terms of money, and like, why don't I spend on the things that require, I mean, it took me a while to realize, like, I will always have an unlimited budget for books. Like, no matter what, like if I see a book that really stands out to me, I'm going to buy it. Like, I don't care how much money I have in the bank. I have my last $15. The book is $14. I'm going to buy it. Even if the book is $17, I am going to buy it if I know it's gonna put me in the negative if I know it's gonna bring me somewhere. And I've been hearing many people talk about it, because now I only buy a book when I've heard, if it really inspires me or impacts me from the stories that people are telling, or it continues to show up over and over and over again. At the first time that I kind of like took the kind of, just instead of dipping my toe and figuring if I was going to pay for a coach or not, I was in a place where I was like trying to just always, like, I need to just throw my whole body in the cold water instead of just being, when you go to the beach and you see the people, they just put their feet in and they're like, oh, it's freezing. It's like, no, I want to be that person that just runs in and just jumps in the water, which we have done together in San Diego when you lived. And like, the Pacific Ocean is freezing. But it's things like that I was like, I need to live for more of those moments, because I've always been scared. I've always been the person to kind of dip my toe. And a lot of people never believe me when I say that, but I was talking to my mom the other night, based on our conversation about parents and all of that. I called both my mom and my dad, because I was so impacted by that. And we can talk about that. But I was so impacted by that I was like, I just want to talk to my parents. You know what I mean? Like, one thing my mom said is just like, I don't know where it came from, but you were always this scared child. Like, you hated going outside. You like to be in your room all the time.
Really?
Yeah. She was like,
That's crazy.
right? She was like, as a kid, which I don't remember, but she was like, you were scared of everything. Like everything. You used to wake up in the middle of the night from your nightmares and come into my bed. You used to just be afraid. You were very sensitive to things. And I was just like, that's interesting. Cause like there are parts of me that are still like that, but I've definitely worked on it. And then I can attest to books being that. And the first coach I ever hired, and it's funny when we were talking about this earlier, you were like, I didn't know you hired a coach. And I was just like, oh yeah, I always forget that I did, because it was only a 3 month. It was only for 3 months, and it was called Brad's Lifestyle Academy. That was the coaching program, and he only allowed about 8 to 10 people in, if I'm not mistaken, at any given time. And what it was is like, for 3 months, we went through this whole online class, and we will have calls with him twice a month. So I only bought 4 calls, so I didn't have 2 calls with him for the last few months, because money. And at the time, I wasn't making a lot of money, but it was specifically, at first, it was to find my purpose, because I was like 23 years old. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was still working at AT&T at the time. And it was to find my purpose, but instead I got something else completely from it. I must have read the marketing material wrong, but it was mostly to find like that confidence to take big steps and big leaps in your life. And that was that coaching, which was the sole purpose of accelerating me quitting AT&T and making the decision to go and teach in China. Like, it was that reason, being in that program, learning for those 3 months from not only Brad himself, who's the coach of the program, and having those one-to-ones with him, but always was like, I want his confidence, because the way he exuded it on his videos, and like he was part of the RSD, which can be a topic for another discussion another day. But he was like, he was one of the most smoothest dudes I knew at the time, and I was like, I want to be that smooth, like, dude that just like hangs back and things like come to him. And I was like, I don't have that. I'm always like running for stuff. I'm always trying to get people's attention. I'm always like seeking. Why can't I let it come to me? So that's why I hired him, because of those things. And originally it was for purpose, but in hindsight, I look at it, and it was really to build that confidence and to build that smooth, like, I don't really have to work too hard, because things come to me because I asked for it, right? And the whole idea of self-love really came from him, because he had this whole ideology about radical self-love and all these things that he would talk about. And all the books he had us read really like opened my eyes and opened myself to the experience, and to be confident enough to quit AT&T with a little bit of money in the bank, and to go off and go to China and just be like, I have a partner, I have my whole family here, and I'm going to leave all of them for a year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild, because that gives me like a whole different perspective on that trip, because the fact that, like, you said you, like, your mom pointed out you were like a really scared kid, Because when I met you, this was all it's already happened. You were, pretty confident guy in my eyes, but um, that brings like a whole new energy to the fact that you did that, because to be someone because I know those kids, like I was around those kids, I was on the opposite end, which also wasn't great, which I was like stupidly fearless. Like I was so fearless that it was dangerous. Like there were so many times I look back at my childhood and I'm like, yo, I have angels. Like I legitimately have angels in my life, because the shit I did, like I could have died like 5 or 6 times. Like it was crazy, dude. But that has, its own backdraws. Like I just said, I could have died, and other things that like I'm not, it was wild, and it was an expression of like anger and frustration that I was feeling at home, so there's like different ways that people can can share that, and a lot of that was fear, but like fear being expressed in a different way. Whatever. That's a different
100%.
conversation,
100%. But it did come up.
Yeah.
Like that part of me, that child who was
Mm-hmm.
scared of everything, came up so many times when I was in China.
Oh,
Like
I can only imagine.
a shadow side of like being alone, like and at that time I wasn't attention seeking anymore. So imagine I'm just sitting in my house all alone, just like dealing with this inner part of child of myself who was really, really scared because he's on the other side of the planet and you don't know what could happen. Not only that, but being on an airplane for 15 hours drove me insane. Twice, back to back, 15 hours
Yeah,
to
that's a long
Abu
day.
Dhabi, and then 15 hours again. I mean, 15 hours to Russia, and then 15 hours to the city that I lived in China. Was just like, it's one of those things that you're just like, I am by myself. I am all alone, and I don't know anyone here. I barely know the guy who kind of like hired me as a teacher. I barely know him. I had met him once or twice, talked to him on the phone about 3 times, and that was it. Like
So wild,
I
dude.
barely knew anyone. I didn't know the language. All these things that came out. I remember going the first time. I was so scared to go out to eat. The first day that I got there, I was starving, and I was like, and I was waiting for my friend to come to the house that the school offered me, and I never forget this. I was waiting for him, and then he owns a business, so he was like, "Dude, I'm gonna be later than I thought." And dude, I had gone maybe 30 hours without it. This is before we knew about fasting, so like 30 hours was insane to me. I had gone 30 hours without eating because on the second flight I chose not to eat because the airplane food made me feel a little sick. So I just denied it entirely and just drank water and tea. And I'm like, I need to eat. He's like, yeah, like around your area, you have like a few restaurants. You could just walk in and just point to the menu. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, point to the menu. He's like, I know you don't understand, but he's like, just like note me because we used to use WeChat. You voice note me
So
like what
wild.
you want and take a picture of the menu and I'll answer you. And in my head, I was like, but you're busy doing something, so I may have to stand there and look like an idiot for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on how long you answer. So all this is going in my head.
That's so crazy, dude.
But I was like, I'm starving. So I really had to go downstairs, saw the first restaurant with like chicken and ducks outside of, just like you see in Chinatown, New York. It's very similar out there. They have all the meat like in the front. You walk in, they give me a menu. They're smiling, saying hello, because luckily a lot of expats live in that area. And I look at the menu, but nothing's in English, obviously. And they have a few pictures. So I just point at this and like show it to the lady. And she asks me a question, I guess in Chinese, at least from how I interpreted it. And I was like, yes, sure. So I got the plate, and the plate is like rice, duck, chicken, and some vegetables that I did not know what kind of vegetables they were, but I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna eat it. It ended up not being bad. It was really good. I ended up going to that place over and over again. But I was like, I gave her money. I was just like, she probably could jip me right now because I do not know. She said how much it was. I don't understand that number. So I just like gave her the money. She gave me change back. I was just like, I don't know, and just put it in my pocket and just kept it moving. But I was so like my anxiety levels at that moment was so high because I know that still exists within me. I have all this confidence, but it takes time when you're in a new place. That shit takes time to build. It's not like
Sure,
I
yeah.
can call the coach on speed dial and be like, "Yo, this is what I'm going through at another country. Give me some tips and tricks. I had to figure that out on my own based on what I learned during that time. But you know, if it wasn't for that, I probably would have never gone to China and go
Yeah.
through that. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Yeah, dude. Yeah. That's a crazy, that's a crazy, crazy experience, man. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, hey, like, even if you're listening to this and you can't, and, you know, we understand the times that we're living in, even if you can't afford a coach right now, um, books are still incredible, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I think the main thing that we're trying to share here is not, it's not just about getting coaches. Like, coaches really it's important to take things to the next level, especially if it's in an area of your life that like that you know you can't optimize by other means. You know, like there was a point where I was like, the foundational knowledge of nutrition was not gonna fix my gut. You know what I mean? Like the issues I was experiencing inside my body was not gonna get fixed by the foundational ideas of nutrition, because I did all of those to a T and nothing was changing. And so I was like, all right, I need to fucking speak with a professional who knows what they're doing and can fix this, you know? Or if it's like things you want to shorten, you know what I mean? Like if there's like certain things you want to get really good at understanding and you don't want to take the time, or you're not interested in fucking, you know, body mechanics and sports science and, you know, training for different races or competitions or anything like that, and you just want someone else to draw that program for you, absolutely, you know what I mean? Or biohacking, if you're like, I want to get into this but I'm not here to like learn all the different things, like, hey, you're a biohacker, show me how to do all these things, you know, that's great. Or business or whatever it is that you want to get really good at, like playing a guitar, like you can learn how to do that online or by yourself. But like if you want to get good, you know, fast, you got to work with somebody, you got to work with a teacher, and that's with anything. But there's so many ways you can get so much out of just reading books. Like even my experience the other day, you know, when I called you on the phone and told you the experience I had from reading this book. It's called It Didn't Start With You. Let me just see real quick who the author is. I'm always really bad at that.
The authors, yeah, same
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, it's called It Didn't Start With You, How Inherited Family Trauma Shapes Who We Are and How to End the Cycle by Mark Wallen. Dude, that book is crazy. You know, anyone who's listening, get that book. It is a wild, wild book. And it like, I had an experience doing the exercises in that book, and I want you to go through it. When Ruben goes through it and has his own experience, we will come back and have a full episode about this book and what we learned from it. But all I'll say is, like, I had an experience from that book that was like almost like I just did a ton of psychedelics and had an insane breakthrough. You know what I mean? Like my body was shaking, I was crying, I was screaming. It was almost like it literally felt like a rebirth, because just by doing the exercises in this book. And the book cost me like $20, you know what I mean? like it's crazy what's found there. And yeah, I think there's just really something to just being a lifelong student and not being afraid to invest in your growth, especially if you are in a place in your life where based on your perception of money or your perception of lifestyle, you think you're broke, or you think that you're you don't have the funds to invest in yourself. But that's the best time to invest in yourself, because all you have is up. You know, anything you invest in yourself is going to 10x your current experience, because your current experience is low, you know? So, because as you grow and develop, it actually becomes harder to find the right things to invest in yourself with, you know what I mean? Because you hear the same shit over and over again. You're jaded by different people. You're jaded by different coaches. You've gotten this and this and that done. And then that's when it becomes difficult to really get clear on like who you should work with or what books you should read to take things to an even higher level. So wherever you are, just start, start right now. Start, read everything, read anything,
Right.
get to it. If you've never done anything, and if you're already at a level where you've already been reading for a while, you've done some courses, and you're ready to take things to the next level, well, hey man, there's never been a better time to invest in a coach, whether that's
Right.
Ruben or myself or someone else, whoever it is. As long as it's someone who you resonate with and
Exactly.
you feel them, um, those and yeah, I mean, what I would say as someone who's worked with a lot of different coaches, a lot of different like programs, because I've worked with so many coaches, I don't even remember all of them, because
Damn.
because but that in itself was, I made a lot of mistakes, and I've worked with a lot of people I probably shouldn't have worked with
Mm.
because they were cheap or they were very flashy in what they were selling.
Mm.
And I kind of was in a very desperate place, and I wanted to feel as if I was going to get the solution instead of like actually know I was going to get it. It was almost eh, like, oh, if I work with this person, this means that I'm going to be better, without really doing my due diligence. And
Exactly.
what I would say is like, t- when you look at the person who you're going to work with, I would say the two things uh, that you should look out for is like, energy off the bat. Do you
Okay.
resonate with it? Is this a person you would hang out with? You know what I mean? Is this a person that you would go to dinner with, or go to the movies with, or go to the park, or go on a hike with? Is this someone who you see yourself being comfortable hanging out with? You know, um, because let's say you want a six pack, for example, right? There's a bunch of dudes with six packs, right? Um, and there's a lot of people who literally sell their products just off of the fact that they have a six pack.
Mm.
Um, and uh, and just because they have it, what it's going to take for you to get something like that, even if that's what you want, is there has to be a level of connection and expertise in this person to be able to, for you to achieve that. And expertise isn't enough in the sense of like, oh, they know the science of what it takes to get a six pack. Are they someone who communicates in a way that is inspiring to you, to want and motivates you to stay on the process day in and day out? And are they someone who are understanding and are compassionate to real life situations? Because it's great, you hear those stories of people who, like, they jump on a program, they start working with the coach, and then it's just a linear progression. But more often than not, it's not a linear progression. More often than not, you're going through waves of emotions. You have different life experiences that are coming up. And is this a person that you can trust saying that you didn't stick to the program, or that
Right.
you need modifications? And do you know that they're going to be able to do that for you? um, and going back, it's still the expertise. Like, do they know the best stuff for what you need to achieve? Do they, do they have the information that's going to get you to where you want to go? um, and yeah, and then you talk about price. Then after you know all that, then you look at the price, and then you go, okay, is this someone I can afford?
Right.
Because that matters too. Because like, if they're fucking $300 an hour, $400 an hour, or up, and they might be the best, but if you're like stressing out about finances, working with this person, you're gonna find a way to get out of that situation. So you got to find a healthy balance. um, um, and then I would also, the last thing I would say is like, on that front is, if you're gonna go in, you got to see like you're going into a program with someone,
Right.
or like, train, because um, if you have the expectations that you're going to get results within a week, I mean, you may see some sort of changes or some improvements, but
Mm.
more often than not, like, you got to do, minimum, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months and up commitment with this person.
Exactly.
um, to see significant changes over time. And anyone who's promising you anything different, anyone who's promising you like, yo, 2 months, give me a month and I'm gonna fucking rock your world. That
Right.
dude's full of shit. That dude
Exactly.
is full of shit. He's gonna, I mean, again, by paper, he might tell you all the right things that you need to do to get this result in a month, but he's not going to teach you how to make that sustainable over a year, 2 years, 3 years, five
I
years, whatever it is.
Yep.
Go ahead.
You exactly took the words out of my mouth. Like, how do you make it sustainable versus like, yeah, I can help you lose 15, 20 pounds in a month. That's, you do a fasting protocol, you take away grains and carbs, and you really make or you don't really take away carbs, but like healthier carbs and fats and protein. And hey, here's an exercise regimen, do it. You can lose that kind of weight. But you do that in a month after they leave and you go back to your normal ways, because 28 days is not enough time. 28 to 31 days, not enough time to build a sustainable habit. It takes over 3 months to build a sustainable habit that you continue doing for almost the rest of your life. And it's easier to pick up if you do stop. Right. And I learned that through tons of different books. But look, books. But there's there's something there about building sustainability. I feel like we definitely live in a world where we want results right now, like this minute, like this moment. I need my six pack yesterday, not today. And it's something that I remember making a post a few months ago. It was like after I did carnivore and my abs really came in, but I was like, I had been carnivore for 30 days. I was in a fasted state of like over 18 hours. I had just done the sauna not too long before. Like there was so many different aspects to that. I was just like in the post, I was like, this is great, but I do not always look like this. My body changes every single day. Some days I see that six pack, and some days it's just not there. I just have a flat tummy, right? But it's just a matter of like what you're seeing online is not always what you're seeing. Every time I see these guys with like super fit, or even the women like super fit all the time, and it's like, well, they're posing, one, and two, they're probably doing the same thing. They're in the fastest state. They're in a great piece of lighting that they use. There's probably some post editing done there. Like you got to think about all these things. And it's like at the end of the day, instead of looking at, it's like me and my coach were taught when we were talking, we were like the byproduct of working out and working on yourself is looking good. But you're only doing it because you want to be healthy. You're only doing it because you want to have a vitality in your body. You want to have energy throughout the day, and all of it to be
Yeah.
sustainable, and for you not to feel in pain all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same, we're that ab analogy is specific to like health and fitness
Right.
coaching, but it's the same thing. Like if you see a dude who's sitting on top of a Lamborghini and is like, I could show you how to make X amount of dollars in your business by this, 7-step, coaching process, sign up now, whatever the fuck it is. It's like, he may be right. He may be actually right. He may actually be able to show you how to make that kind of money. He may have a perfect process for doing that. But just the fact alone that he is leading from that place, he is leading from a place of, here's the materialistic outcome. And I don't want to say there's nothing wrong with materialism, because there are things fundamentally wrong with materialism.
Oh yeah.
Well, do I not enjoy materialistic things? I absolutely do. I love shit. I love shit. You know what I mean? And I want shit. I want more shit. You know what I mean? I like shit. I think there's positives. I don't want to demonize materialism, because I think there's things out there that are very beautiful and beautifully designed and are worth, the money we spend to purchase them.
Right.
But it's like, and it's also like, I have a background in marketing, so part of me also, when I see those things, I know what they're doing, and it's very deceptive. And for me, it's like, I like, all right, to paint a clear picture, like I would want to work with a business coach who is someone who understands how to create that type of money. But the conversation they're having with me is, what are you able to create for your family? What are you able to, how do you change how are you evolving emotionally and spiritually as a business person to be able to create um, to create this type of lifestyle? What type of person do you need to become to generate these things? Because I think for the most part, what apply like the same rules that apply to fitness and nutrition, which is for the most part, most people know what the fuck to do,
Right.
unless you're someone who has very like I did, who has very specific ailments that like you really need to sit down with someone and get a very very clear picture of what's going on with your body to heal it. Um, but for the majority of people, if they just like stopped eating shit and and ate organic whole foods, they'd be fabulous. Like
Right.
they would be so great. You know what I mean? If they just did that. And most people know that's what the right thing to do, but it's all the emotional bullshit that gets in the way. And I think the same rules actually apply to business and to making money, in the sense that like, yes, there are tactics. Yes, there are like how to build a funnel, but like all this, like with fucking Google, like you can find
All of
most
this.
of the most basic business knowledge you could find just by Googling it. But what actually gets in people's way is not that they don't have the best system in place. It's that their ideas of money and their ideas of making money and being a business person and staying disciplined and not being afraid to put themselves like all that shit. That's what's really in the fucking way. You know, it's not the funnel system, because like you could find that shit. You know, if you are disciplined, committed to yourself, you know, clear on your dream, know what you want to achieve, you don't need anyone to tell you how to how
Mm.
to build your business, because you'll figure it out. You'll find your way, and you'll find the resources you need to make that happen. And I only bring that up because for myself, that's become very apparent. You know, now that we've started to build momentum on creating content, I watch myself, because I technically know, you know, I've been doing marketing for years. I technically know what it is that you need to do to build clients, you know, to share your content and share your voice out there. And I watch myself day in and day out, you know, depending on how I feel, the confidence level in what I know. You know,
Mm.
like I will doubt myself and what I know to be true if I if the self-talk I have about myself is low, right? If I'm not feeling confident, if I'm not feeling like I know what I'm doing, and if you know, for example, if I'm not sticking to my commitments to myself, well, then I will then doubt the information that I know is true and has been true for, you know, as long as I've known it. But then magically, because I feel this way, oh, I don't know, you know, who am I? But you get into this whole fucking conversation. You know what I mean? So, um, and that applies everywhere. So I say all that to say is that when you're looking for someone to work with, um, uh, have a keen eye on not just what they're selling, but how they're selling it.
Right.
What are they leading with? You know, what's important to them? What is the message that they want to get across to you? And are they living by that as well? And that'll really help you weed out the bullshit in, you know, what is now a coaching industry.
I know. And it's such a big coaching industry because, people who probably have a little bit more money than others are able to hire multiple coaches, which is what something we spoke about before. Like, you look at the big time athletes, they'll have all kinds of coaches. They'll have, you look at a football. I just finished a book on some of the most famous uh quarterbacks in the industry in
Mm,
history. And it's called, it was basically like their father was their first coach. Their father kind of gave them their like blueprint first. And then when they went off to school and stuff like that, they had their, if they were like a quarterback, they had their main coach, then they had their coach for nutrition, then they had their coach for the gym on specific things to work on. Since they're a quarterback, they have to have a
mhm,
really strong arm, right? And then they have their coach for recovery, and then they have Kobe Bryant had like six coaches when rest in peace, but like he had like six coaches around him at all times. Like all these like people who play the game at such a high level, and then bringing in, you know, like intensity throughout every single day, all day, they have people supporting them and how to navigate that all the time. And I'm not saying that people need to be like that. I eventually want to get to that point where I can have
Absolutely,
at
bro.
least 2 or 3 coaches that are on my like a retainer or something to support
Absolutely,
me,
dude.
because that's what people do. Like you said, if you want to 10x something anywhere in your life, you need to have someone who's going to be your cheerleader but also hold you accountable, someone who's there to really like say like, don't worry, you got this. That's not a friend, because a friend knows you too well. A friend will hold you accountable until it's uncomfortable and then be like, no, I love you, I care for you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need someone who cares for you but also is like, I see what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I learned this from working my job, since I literally do coaching at my job for these young adults that I work with. And that's something that I do is like, hey, I care about you, but I also see so much potential that you may not see yet. And I'm going to
Absolutely.
work you to that potential. And some of them I do, and that works. And some of them I don't, right? Like that's going to be the reality of the situation, depending on the more and more people that you work with. So, you know, it's probably the greatest thing, because I feel like a coach is a teacher, and that's like my purpose in life, to
Yeah.
be some sort of a teacher, or a hermit. If you ever see the tarot card, the hermit, it's
Hmm.
like all these things. It's such a fascinating place to be because you get to work through the unknown, right? And it's like I don't specialize in something, I'm generalized. And funny enough, my video coming out this week is all about like, what is a holistic health coach? Right?
Hmm.
Like, what is that? Like, a lot of people probably see it and they don't know what it is. So I'm like, here's my story as to how it came to be and why I do this versus just being just health nutrition only. And it's like you
Hmm.
said, you could find those answers. But my whole thing is like, where's the mindset? Like what are the thoughts going into every time you want to put something in your mouth, whether healthy or unhealthy? And like, you know, or you want to spend time in a specific way. Like, how do we optimize in your life to become an integrated human, which is a word
Yeah.
I got from Robert Greene. Like, being an
Hmm.
integrated human is to be at the top of your game and being able to be in service of others, which we all do,
Yeah.
whether that's your kids,
Well,
work, or whatever.
yeah, well, you know, like Centaur, like my coaching company is called Centaur. Well, and
Right.
Centaur, from the levels of consciousness standpoint, is equal to the idea of it's equal to integrated consciousness. So
Mm,
Centaur consciousness and integrated consciousness are the same fucking thing. Because if you look at a centaur, it's literally like a body, a human, and
mm, a
and
horse.
and an animal, right? So like body and mind, like mind and body, um, or human and earth. You know, it's the integration of everything that's available to us
Mm,
as earthlings and as human beings. You know what I mean? So absolutely, man, it's the same. It's the same idea, and you know, the whole thing with nutrition is like, well, people don't really, but a lot of people don't understand. Um, and that dude, what's his name, Sean Model, who was on Aubrey Marcus's show, he pointed out the data beautifully, which is like nutrition isn't just about like getting healthy, um, and to like so you can live long or that you can be in great shape. Those are great, but what a lot of the data shows that people miss is like how it improves your mood, how it improves your
mm.
thinking, your focus, you become less violent, you become less
I think you just posted that on your
fresh.
story, no? Like
Yes,
they did a
yeah.
study on kids in like underserved communities or something like that. What
Yeah,
was
let
it?
me pull it up real quick. um
I've seen
yeah.
that study before, and it's just like it's mind blowing. They also did a similar study in a prison, and the violence in the prison went down by like some crazy percentage as well, just from
Yeah.
shifting to a nutrient dense diet.
Yeah, it said in a randomized controlled trial of 214 incarcerated youth, a nutritional intervention of vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids, meaning that it's not even food. Like they just supplemented them. All they did was supplement. They didn't even give them like it wasn't that they improved the quality of their food. They just gave them supplements, and just by giving them these supplements, it reduced their repeat offenses by 26.3%.
It's huge.
You know what I'm saying? And you could find this in PubMed. Um, you could look it up and it's there. Like what? like, think about what that means for low-income neighborhoods. Think about what that means for uh
Public
uh
schools.
for public schools. Yeah, like I was a crazy ass kid. I also just happened to eat shitty food all the time.
All the time. I went to Abraham Lincoln, one of the most dangerous schools in the early 2000s and 90s. It was like top 10 always, to the point
Yeah.
that when I got there, they had metal detectors. We couldn't bring
Yeah.
phones. Obviously, knives and guns were in there all the time before. Like there was so much violence back in the day. And guess where? Coney Island, where you have McDonald's, Chinese food on every corner, like just no health foods at all, and two supermarkets in the whole entirety of Coney Island. Like, like what?
Exactly. And we're not, what we're getting at is not, we're not here to have a whole nutrition conversation. The
Oh,
point
sorry.
that we're saying is like, no, the point that we're saying is like, even nutrition, when we talk about people who are experiencing anxiety, depression, feeling isolated, feeling insecure, doubtful, unsure of themselves, you know, people always equate that you need to go talk to somebody, right? That's always like, you need to go talk about your problems. That you need to go to a therapist, right? And I say, let's get you to change your diet. Let's not talk about anything before we look at your diet. Let's look at how, like, I don't even want to hear about your problems until we take a look at how you're eating, you know? And then once we work on that, for example, and not to say that's in every case, I'm being facetious right now, but like, let's say we take your diet, then let's see how you're feeling and how you're doing. And are those same issues that were there before still there? You know what I mean? And if they are, all right, well, let's start looking at some other things. Let's look at your movement. Let's look at your relationships. Let's look at all those other things. But I, you know, myself being a prime example, I truly believe that nutrition is fundamental to how we experience life.
100%.
You know what I mean?
It's
fundamental to life. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Can you explain that a little bit more? That's a great point.
Yeah, like nutrition is information. Like there are studies out there that are already showing, just explaining to people that food is much more than just, you know, like, oh, I'm just eating this because I'm hungry. It's like, no, it's information. It's literally going through your body. All these molecules are taking certain things that are in those foods, and it's going into not only your genetics, your microbiome, your brain. Like there's always a joke, and I'm not if you're a vegan, I'm not thrashing you. It's just a funny joke that I see online all the time. It's like, oh, no wonder vegans are so angry. It's because they're nutrient deficient. They don't have brain food, right? That comes from like fatty cuts of meat or any kind of animal fat. And it's just always funny because you're like, hey, I don't know how true that is. There hasn't been any studies on it, but it kind of proves a point. And think about like you and I, we just mentioned like, oh, we were angry kids. I was an angry kid. You mentioned how much you did. And what was our diets? I'm writing my article for LinkedIn right now about like holistic health and what caused me to go there. I'm like, I remember getting, and this is just a quick example, I used to get a $5 allowance every week from my mom. And with those $5, I was able to do whatever I want. I could put it away. I can use it for things that I wanted. I could save it, get something. But I used to always use it for food. And something I always tell Karina this, my favorite foods back in the day were Sour Patch Kids and those 50-cent drinks that they existed. And I don't know if they still exist, actually. There were 50-cent drinks.
The little
Those are 25
juices.
cents. So they had this bigger one that was called the Big Burst. And I used to get the fruit punch or the blue raspberry for 50.
Yo, the blue raspberry,
cents.
boy. Let's go.
So think about that, because water was one whole dollar. And I was like, I only have $5 to last me a whole entire week. I'm not getting water for $1 when I could buy juice for 50 cents and it tastes better. So in my little kid logical brain, it just made more sense from a financial standpoint. And then on the article I wrote, like at the end of the week, if I had at least $2.50 left over, I would always buy this breakfast on Fridays. It was a bagel with cream cheese, and I'm lactose intolerant, by the way. Bagel with cream cheese and one of those Big Burst drinks. My diet was all candy punches of whatever fruit juice existed, bagels with no vegetables, no meat in it, nothing. The majority of my meat came from dinner, but like I barely ate breakfast, and lunch was always some random garbage that existed in the corner grocery store because I didn't have money to buy a sandwich or something of that nature. But think about that, that's coming into my body. Like I've had so many moments of extreme anger outbursts that I've had to forgive myself for them, whether that's bursting out on my mom, my sister,
Yeah, me
ex-girlfriends, like
too.
all of that. And I'm like, oh, what if I had a nutrient efficient diet, like something that gave
Mm-hmm.
me everything I
Mm-hmm.
needed? Would that have been the same? Like probably
Absolutely.
not, you know, like all the
Absolutely.
studies are starting to point. I actually posted a study in the video that I made this week with that explains like emotional health and diet. And the whole study. I got it from I think it was not PubMed, it's NHNCIS. It's a
Yes, yeah.
where they publish a lot of studies. And I was reading the study, and I was just like, oh my God, this is insane. And they did it for over like 70,000 women or something. They did it mostly for women, but it's just crazy when you look at that and you're reading about it and you're like, oh my God, like food is information. There's something shifting inside us every time we put something into our
Yeah.
mouth, and it goes and get digested into our body. It's not just we eat it and poop it out. There's something going on there in
Right.
between those two moments.
Right. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
this is something that people are unaware of, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. And the last point I'd make on that, just because you brought it up, the reason, for those who don't know, and again, it's, the beautiful thing about these conversations is we never know where they're going to go. And so we're going to end it on nutrition because that's just what's on the mind right now. The reason that big burst was 50 cents and the water is $1, right? But if you think about it, like it takes almost nothing, like it costs almost nothing to get water. Like the amount of effort and energy you need to use to obtain water is way less than what you need to do to actually take water, you add a bunch of shit into it, you process it, you make it, and then that's the big burst. And you ask yourself, well, like, okay, why is that,
50
why
cents.
is that less expensive than water? The reason is because of government subsidies, which pretty much means that, oh, the government is going to put their money, which is, guess what? Your money. Yeah, the money you make at work,
And pay
that
taxes on.
that those taxes are being put into the government subsidies that are being invested into the food and drinks to make them cheaper so that we could afford them, so that we could afford to hurt ourselves. Instead of being invested into organic foods, into healthy sources of water, that, again, the energy spend on these foods is way less than these other ones, but it's just a matter of where our priorities are. And so just on that front, since we're here, when you do invest in your nutrition and you do invest in to tie it all back to everything, is like you investing in bettering yourself, the awareness you receive and the changes you make in your lifestyle have if think it all, like everything is everything, in the sense of like,
Yep.
if you are becoming holistic, if you are integrating yourself as a human and operating uh more in tune with nature and with the world and with yourself, just by doing that, you then in turn support those things that continue that process and allow others um, to better themselves and to find their integrated selves. Because when you invest in a clean source of water, or you invest in a piece of grass-fed meat, that's supporting the farmers that
Mm.
are able to continue to create that type of food source for people, which then allows other people to have awareness over it and to invest in it. And then when enough of us choose to live this way, well, the government only runs based on what we desire.
Right.
And so if we don't no longer desire, no longer invest in the things that uh, we have been doing, and we invest in other things, well, now they have to switch their focus, because no one's buying this other shit.
Exactly.
And so they will. And then now you'll see grass-fed beef that instead of it being $10 a pound, it's $4 a pound or $5 a
Right.
pound, whatever.
Right.
And it starts with all of us. So investing into a coach, investing into education, investing into bettering yourself is it's not a selfish act. It's actually incredibly selfless, because
Selfless.
as you improve the world around you. So we say all that to say, you got our websites in the
In the comment section.
Our websites are in the description. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, our websites are in the description below. Go check us out. Go hit us up if you're interested in working with us. We are here. We are at your service. And if you find someone else that resonates deeper, by all means, go work with them. But I think the main point that we're trying to just get across here is that investing in yourself is
100%.
great, and it's never been a better time to invest in yourself. So whether it's with coaches, whether it's with books, courses, whatever it is, do it. And if you have been doing it, well, we just want to celebrate you for being on the path and doing your thing. And maybe all this episode was just a reflection and a reminder that you're on the right path. So aho to you.
Aho. Well, with that, we're gonna shut it down here, man.
Yeah, let's close out, brother. Any last words?
I just want to say, just on top of what you said, is just that investment in yourself will probably be the biggest investment to your future. And this is something that I always tell my students, is that what you do today is deciding what your 5-year self, your 10-year self, your 20-year self is going to be thankful for when they look back in hindsight. So that investment that you're putting into yourself is investing to your future self, your future family, right? Because what you're doing today you will literally be impacting a little you in the future if you want to have a family one day. And that's vital, because if you're doing this and you're becoming an optimized human, you're going to have little optimized humans who are going to be so optimized that when they have kids, you know what I mean? And it's this compounding effect that continues to happen. As you mentioned, as you start investing on these other products, your kids are going to see what you do, because that's what they always do. And they're going to do the same thing when they get older and they're making money. So eventually this cycle that we're in right now will begin to end, and we'll enter this new cycle, which we're already entering. But in 100, 200, 300 years, we'll see the difference between these subsidies and corn, soy, and all this crap that's destroying our bodies and minds. And instead look at regenerative agriculture and grass-fed, grass-finished beef and all these other things that are starting to come up more and more people are starting to realize the importance of it. And it starts with you really investing in yourself. So not only is it a selfish act, it's a selfless act for your future. So, and it just starts with a decision that can be made today.
Amen, brother. Let's leave it right there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and checking us out. We've got a lot of exciting, episodes actually coming up. So we're super stoked for the guests that will be tuning in soon. And as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for keeping up. If this is your first time, go check out some of the other episodes. We've got great guests, and we're happy to just keep this thing running, man. So to more episodes, and that's all, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in.
Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode as well. Just want to throw that in there.
Yes. I like that. All right, peace, y'all.
Peace.